What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Will Motivation, back again with another video, and today we are in the Audi RS3 talking about, man, this is a highly requested video. We're talking about my software business. A lot of people have been asking me, tell us more about the software business. How did you start it? What does it do? The details. Alright, so we'll do that. We're going to take a ride here in the RS3 while we talk about the software business. Now, on my channel, if this is your first time tuning in, probably this is mostly going to be people that are currently subscribed that are interested in this. But if this is your first time tuning in, I like to make videos on my car collection, the different cars that I own, because I feel like driving should be fun, so I buy some fun cars to drive. But a lot of times people are wondering how I afford the cars. So most of the time when I talk about what I do for a living and how I afford the cars, I'm talking about real estate and investing in real estate, because one of the companies I own is a real estate company, and I feel like real estate is kind of like for everybody, because one way or another you're coming in contact with real estate, either as a consumer or as an owner, but you're gonna live somewhere, right? So my thing is, why not own where you live? And as an investment strategy, why don't you own other places, or as you move around, keep the place that you bought and rent it out to other people while they're on the come up, kind of thing, right? So I talk a lot about that, but I don't talk a lot about my software company. And the reason why is because I kind of feel like, I don't know if a lot of people can relate to that, so I don't want to bore people with it. But I guess if you're tuning into this video, you're interested, and I'm happy to share the story behind my software company and what it currently does and how I do it. And I mean, it is my biggest business that I've ever had, and it's still my biggest business. It's what keeps me busy now. But if you were to look at it, you might not realize that my business is really a software business, because the way we make money using the software is through recruitment related advertising and sponsorships and different types of online advertising. Okay, so let me break it down for you. I'm gonna try to make this a long story short. If I can do this in 5 to 10 minutes, I'm gonna do it in 5 to 10 minutes if I can. All right, background, how I was able to launch this software company. First of all, I'm a software engineer. So anytime you got a software company, somebody's got to write the software, right? You can have multiple people writing the software, or you can write the software, or you can hire somebody in India or overseas or here in the States or wherever. You find them and you can hire them to develop the software, whether that's for a mobile app, whether that's for an online web type of app. It could be software that runs on a desktop computer, software that runs on a mobile device, whatever. You gotta have somebody that writes the software. So I studied software engineering, so I knew how to develop software. Now, with that foundation of being able to develop software, the number one thing that did for me to make me competitive, to make me able to start a software company, was I didn't have to pay a developer to write the software for whatever my ideas were. So I came up with the idea because I went to an HBCU, which is a historically black college and university. I came up with the idea of creating a website originally for my HBCU. That was my idea. But as I got to talking to like one of my business partners who launched the company with me, and my friends and family and stuff like that, they were like, no, don't just do it for your school, do it for all schools. But my idea was to create a social network. And at the time, there were no social networks. There was no LinkedIn. There was no Facebook. So we didn't really have a name for it. It wasn't like, I'm going to create a social network. It was like, I'm going to create a website. And the closest thing to this idea I had was something like eBay, or something like a website where you could get listings for products, or listings for like buying cars or something, where you can go to a website, there was a database of products or listings, and then people could access and search through the listings and access the listing. That was the closest concept to what I was trying to do. So I took that concept with the software, and I actually bought some software where I got the source code for the software, and then I re-engineered it to, instead of being for product listings, I made it for people listings, so that I could create a website where you could go to this website and you could get listings of people and search through the people and see the pictures of the people and communicate with the people. That was the idea for my website, which is now known as a social networking website. But like I said, back then there was no such thing. So that was the idea, and I set out to create it, and I start developing the website. I created this social network for HBCU students and graduates. And when I originally created this software, I didn't know how I was going to make money with it. I just thought it was a good idea, and I was like excited about it, and I just started writing code, right? I rolled up my sleeves, started writing code, started building it, getting bigger and bigger. I got it on Yahoo. Back then there was no Google, there was no, Yahoo was the only major search engine. There was no Google at this point in time when I created this site. So the lesson there is, you want to be early. When you come up with an idea, you want to be the first one to do it, to give yourself the best chance of success. Yeah, the RS3. Yeah. But anyway, I was one of the first people on the internet doing this kind of thing, right? So started the website, got it on Yahoo. When people typed in HBCU, we were the first HBCU related website on Yahoo. They would go to the website, they would register, they would sign up. So they start using my software, right? And the more people used it, and the more people found it on Yahoo, the more I was excited about building on it and making it better and better and adding features to the software, so that I could grow it and like people could continue to use it and find value in it, right? That's exactly what I did. I built on the software. I didn't make any money. Like for the first, I launched it in 1999. I didn't make any money until 2002 was when we got our first client. Okay. All right. So thing with that is, you don't always have to be concerned about monetizing your passion project, because your passion project can turn into money if you grow it, right? The ideas for making money with it will come later. So that's what I did. So people started using it in the hundreds of thousands of people. And then later on, it was millions of people that were using the website. It became one of the biggest websites on the internet for black people. Okay, top 5 on the entire internet for African Americans was HBCU Connect, which is the name of the .com, which houses all of the software. So essentially, I built an online presence with a database and software and functionality for the web. That's what I built. So how did it start making money? The way it started making money is just like Facebook makes money. Facebook came along later. They blew up. I never tried to compete with Facebook because I didn't have the money and the deep pockets that they had. So I stayed in my lane, and I'm glad I did, right? But anyway, companies started coming to my website and started asking me if there was a way that they could advertise their jobs, because I had an audience of educated, diverse professionals and students. I had alumni from the schools. I had students from the schools. So here come these companies that normally go to the schools to recruit talent, and now they're trying to go online to recruit talent, and they start calling me on my phone while I'm at work, asking me about my website and my software, and asking if they could access my database. So after getting enough of these calls, I said, you know what? I'm going to create some software to allow them to do exactly what they're asking me for. I'm going to allow them to do it on my website through software. So I took my Christmas break from my day job. I was working as a software engineer for AT&T Bell Labs. Took my Christmas break, rolled up my sleeves, and created an online career center similar to Indeed.com, or back in the day it was Monster.com, sites like that. I built that software into my website. Then we started making money. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was like $8,000 on the side in the first year. Second year was probably like $16,000. The third year I quit my job and I started running a software company full time. Now, to this day, my competitive advantage in my business is the fact that me and my team, we write custom software and we come up with solutions that are software solutions for the problems that or the challenges that our clients have related to them trying to recruit talent however they can. So I'm constantly on a daily or weekly basis writing software or using software that I create to service the needs of these clients that came to me to recruit the talent in my database. So I'll write software now to maintain my website. I'll write software to maintain my database. I'll write software to do marketing campaigns intelligently, going into my database, finding the talent, whatever. So I have a competitive advantage in my field of business because we write custom software. So I don't have to contract a software engineer to build products or services. I come up with the idea and I can write the code, or someone on my team can write the code. Like I have coders on my team as well. So that is in a nutshell how I started my software company. And if you want to get into details around, okay, what kind of technology do I use to write the software? We're at Panda Express. Urban chicken.
What can I get started for you?
Can I get a 3 entree plate?
The bigger plate?
Yeah. And two orange chicken and 1 bourbon chicken. And chow mein.
Okay, bigger plate, chow mein, double orange, 1 bourbon chicken. What else can I get for you?
I'll try one of those apple cinnamon roll things or whatever.
The apple pie roll?
Yeah, apple pie roll. And a lemonade, small lemonade.
Small minute lemonade, alrighty.
That's it.
I'll have a soda right out the window.
Alright. Okay. Alright, so I had to get some food. I've been working today. It's a Sunday. Working and watching football. Alright, so where was I? So now I write code. You might ask some deep dive questions like, what kind of technology do we use? I wrote the most coding that I do is in a language called Perl. Perl is very, very capable, which is why I use it. Right, let's see this. Let me pay for my food real quick. Yes, sir. Perl. The Perl is the language, man. Let's see what they're talking about.
Hi, your total is $15.56. Would you like to round up to Volunteer Children's Hospital?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Okay, so Perl is the language I use most of the time. Every now and then we'll use some shell scripting languages. The database we use, if you're starting your own business and you want a nice, easy database for free, MySQL. I think they changed the name. Thank you. I think they changed the name from MySQL to they changed it to something DB, Anna DB or something. Somebody who knows MySQL knows the name. Somebody drop it in the comments. So I use MySQL, so I know all about database schemas and creating databases and querying databases. We done a little bit of PHP, which is like the framework for Facebook. Thank you. Yeah, a little bit of PHP, MySQL. We good. My window tint. I just got my windows tinted. I rolled the window down. Didn't know if that was gonna mess something up, but I think we're good. But yeah, that's the primary technology. And if you ask me for a recommendation of languages to learn, if I was as far as platforms too, like if you're saying well, I want to create a website and start developing code, I would say PHP, MySQL, Linux environment, Linux server. With those two technologies and on that environment, you could, at a low cost, you could start developing web applications. Then the next thing you might want to develop a mobile app. So there's different technologies for mobile apps, man, but I'm not really an expert on mobile apps. So we'll leave that for another day. Or leave that for another day to have that discussion. I know it's getting dark out here. But yeah, man, let's talk about it in the comments. You guys got questions, follow-up questions on starting your own business, being an entrepreneur, running a software company. You either got to have money to do it, to pay people to do the work, or you got to do it yourself. One or the other. Sometimes you can get people to do the work for equity in the company, but that's risky because once you start telling them to do the work for equity, they might take your idea and run with it without you. Like, what's the equity that you bring to the table other than an idea? I think ideas are cheap. Ideas are cheap, man. So don't think just because you got an idea for some dope software that's all you need. Like, you gotta know more than that to bring a company to life. So there you go. So hey, we'll continue this discussion. Just ask questions and I'll answer them. Yo, what's up YouTube? It's your boy Will Motivation, and I'm back again with another video that I promised you guys that I would make. And in this video, I'm going to take you to the job that I used to work before I quit and started my business. Alright, so let's go check it out.
You remind me of someone, but I'm not going to mention who it is. The guy who introduces his, welcome to my garage. Knowledge!
Will Motivation. Will Motivation.
You're watching Will Motivation. Here is where we create, educate, and motivate. Welcome to Will Motivation. Alright, so we're on our way to my old place of work, and I'm sitting here thinking, what can I share with you guys? What's the learning from this experience? Like, what can I share with you guys from that experience of quitting my job to run my own business or start my own business? And man, one of the biggest things is that I didn't just quit and then start my business. I started my business while I was still working my 9 to 5. So I would work my 9 to 5, and then I would come home. I would take care of my kids, and you know, my kids were real young at the time. I get my kids in bed 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then from 9 o'clock at night until 3 o'clock in the morning, or somewhere around that time, I would work on my business and my website. And I did that for about 3 years, or more, you know, probably more like 4 years. I did that, building the business, you know, finally making some money with the business, and then quitting my job. Now, when I quit, I was only making, I would say I made maybe $9,000 for the whole year prior to me quitting. So now at my job I was making about 78,000 and maybe closer to 88,000 with bonuses and stuff, you know, working for a corporate, you know, company. So I was making good money, and I was able to, you know, save a little bit of money. I was able to buy a house, you know, my first house. Wasn't anything extravagant, but I had a mortgage. I had a wife at the time, and I had 2 little kids. So the challenge was, how am I going to, you know, quit my job and risk not being able to provide for my family? You know, what if I fail? Well, you have that risk at all times. You know, at the end of the day, you could get fired from your job. You could lose your job for whatever reason. They could downsize. So you could be out of a job anyway. So, you know, that I had to kind of X off the list. Like, okay, well, let me just save up as much money as I can and quit on my terms, you know. I even asked them to give me a severance package because they were starting to downsize the company, and they denied it. They didn't give me a severance package and let me go, which is what I recommended to them, because then they could be prepared to, you know, get a job to somebody else. But they wanted to keep me on. They didn't get it, or they just didn't want to give me a severance package and give me any, you know, good farewell. So I ended up quitting, man. And I'll take a little shortcut here. So yeah, I started a business and ran the business before I actually quit. So my plan was to jump out and give it all my effort, give it all my energy, give it all my attention, and try to turn it into, you know, a thriving and successful business. And so when I quit, first thing I did was I got a little office space so I could have, you know, a serious place to work. It was, you know, it was only like $500 a month. It was a little tiny office. But next thing I did, it was funny. I hired probably 4 or 5 people immediately after I quit, only based on, hey, you know, I can't pay you a whole lot, but, you know, like we could all be in this together, you know. And so I hired my brother, my sister, my friends, and like I said, they all got hired like almost immediately. When I went to work in that office, I think I had a team of at least 3 people with me that turned to 5 people within a few months. And I never missed payroll. I paid everybody every week, so I knew how much money I had, and I was just trying to be careful. And then we just grew, you know. We attacked. So in case you don't know what that business is that I run, it's a website called hbcuconnect.com. It was the first social network for historically black colleges and universities, and it's still the largest website targeting that particular audience. And it was before Facebook and before LinkedIn. So you know, it was a new concept, and people gravitated towards it. So we're getting close to the building where I work. Like I said, it's not that far from where I live. So let's go check that out. Alright, so we're pulling up on the building now. This is it up here on the right. That is it. It's like a big, I mean, thousands of people used to work here. Now, the building was bought out by a healthcare company. So now it's they do something totally different. Check it out. It's funny because my office used to be right up here in the front. I worked my way up to a window seat. Now I'm gonna try to pull off a crazy maneuver and park right in front of the front door to take a picture for a thumbnail. Let's see what happens. Alright, so here we are at the building where I used to work. this is actually, check it out, this is the parking lot where I used to park every day, and this is where I used to come in and go to work. Used to have to clock in, come in through the side door, clock into the 9 to 5 every single day. Now, I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you that I hated my job and I hated coming in here every day to go to work, because that wouldn't be the case. I'm very grateful that I had a job. I'm very grateful that they paid me well, and they didn't stress me out. So I was able to have energy after work and come home and work on something I was passionate about. And I had a lot of opportunities at this place. And it was sort of a springboard for me being able to provide for my family, but then to be able to follow my dreams as well and start my own business. So I'm very thankful actually to this place of employment. Started out as AT&T Bell Labs. They paid for me to go to college. You know, a great company. I thought I was going to retire here, but you know, soon after I started working, I realized I had bigger dreams and bigger goals, and a regular paycheck wasn't going to cut it for what I wanted to do with my life. So I followed my dreams, followed my passion, started a business, and when that business, you know, started growing, you know what happened? I quit. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of you guys that might be going through that same transition. You might be working a 9 to 5 and you're ready to quit. You're frustrated with your job, or you figured out what your passion is. You figured out what you want to work on, what you want to do with yourself, and you want to get out and you want to run your business full time, and you want to have your own business and do your own thing. And so, you know, maybe you're at the point where I was, and I had a good job, but I wanted to do something different, and you had to make that decision to quit. And so what can I tell you guys from a motivational aspect? You know, the channel is called Will Motivation, and what can I tell you to motivate you is that, look, if you are at that point where you're ready to quit your job and run your business full time, first things first, make sure your business is at least making some money. At least you have a proven business and a proven concept that you think you can work if you put more time and effort into it. And you got to be realistic with yourself. And this is, you know, life is not a joke. It's not a game, especially when you got a family, you got a wife and kids. First of all, start your business, run your business on the side, make sure it's viable, and then you got a decision to make. Now, if you got your business to that point where it's out, you're out there, you're making a little bit of money, but you want to run it full time, well then you got a decision to make. If you have your business already up and running and you're at that point where you're thinking about quitting your job, your 9 to 5, and you want to run your business full time, well, sometimes you got to step out on faith, and that is, if you're not a spiritual person and you don't, you know, believe in God and that kind of thing, well, it still applies to you, because sometimes stepping out on faith is stepping out on the faith in your own abilities and your own work ethic. And if it's not that, or part of that might be your spirituality and what you believe in and what your purpose is, you know what I'm saying, and you fulfilling that purpose and not being afraid, you know what I'm saying. So for me, it was a combination of those things, and luckily I had my father around, and at that time my father kind of heard me talking about it, and I kind of was looking for a push off the cliff. And finally my dad said, well, if you're going to do it, go ahead and do it, and then we'll get in here and get behind you. And that's really all I needed. You know, as much as I believed and looked up to my father, is I needed that kind of push, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, for me, that's what it was. I stepped out on faith, and it was not only a faith in my belief system, you know, but it was also faith in my work ethic, faith in my own abilities, faith in how hard I was going to work to take that business as far as I could take it, and at least, you know, more than what it was at the time that I quit. So you got to kind of believe in yourself. You got to have your skills tight. You know, you got to invest in your own education and your own knowledge, and make it happen. Don't be afraid. So there it is. We got Knowledge 2.0 and the old gig. You know, knowledge was having a car like this was motivation and inspiration for me. But you know, I don't want people to think that the job is, always the bad guy. Sometimes the job is a stepping stone for you to get where you want to be. And so for that, I say thank you to this place. They provided me with employment. They provided me with opportunities. There was a lot of good people that worked here. And it's not even the same company that it used to be when I was there. All those people pretty much got let go. So for me, it was sort of like a race between getting downsized and getting my business off the ground. And I feel like I won that race. But more importantly, I want you guys to be motivated and inspired to win your race. Yo. All right, before you go, a lot of people were wondering, so I gave you sort of the long story and the background story of what led up to me leaving my job and quitting. But a lot of people want to know the gritty version of how I actually quit my job, like what happened the day I quit. So real quick, man, 2 minutes. The day I quit my job and what led up to me quitting my job, basically, I went to my boss and I said, hey, can you guys give me a severance package because they were downsizing? My boss was like, let me check and see. So my boss went to his boss and, I was a good worker and everything. And I was on sort of a critical, they had downsizing people around me. And I was sort of on a mission critical project, doing some software or whatever for this product we were working on. And a few days later, my boss came back to me and he was like, well, we understand that you want to volunteer to leave the company and get a severance package, because when you get a severance package, what that means is they let you go or they terminate you, but they give you some money, and maybe some stock options or some compensation and maybe like some health care for a while. They give you that in order for you not to come back and try to file for unemployment or sue the company or something like that. They just give you some money to go away. And so I volunteered for that. Usually people don't want that because they basically are getting fired. But I went to my boss and I volunteered. So he came back a few days later and he was like, sorry, they call me Roger, which is my middle name. They were like, sorry, Roger. But, we kind of need you here on this project and we're not going to give you that severance package. And when I went to him, I was like, give it to me, because better fire me than somebody else who really needs this job. And for me, I could be okay if you fire me. That's basically what I was trying to tell him. So I volunteered. So I would save somebody else's job. They didn't listen to me. They told me no. And so I was like, okay, in my mind, I had my mind already made up. I knew I was going to quit. But I think they didn't know that I was really going to quit. So I would say probably within 2 weeks, I went back to my boss and I said, hey, we need to talk. And remember that offer I made you guys, to basically fire me instead of fire somebody else so I can get a severance package. You guys denied it. But guess what? I'm getting ready to be out of here in 2 weeks. So I basically gave my 2 weeks notice and I told them I didn't want to burn any bridges because I really didn't have any hate towards the job. I just wanted to do my business. I just wanted to run my business. So I didn't want to burn any bridges. So I didn't go in there and roll up to my boss's desk and tell him I quit and start cursing people out and stuff. I didn't do anything like that. I basically went in there, but I was firm though. I was like, there's no negotiation. I'm quitting. I'll give you guys 2 weeks notice, but I'm going to go run my business. I'm going to take care of my son because my son is autistic. And I told them, that was my priority, to have more time to be able to be flexible with him. And I figured they would understand that and I wouldn't be burning any bridges, but I got to go. So that's what happened. I told my boss, I gave him 2 weeks notice and I was out, So it was interesting though, because I had a boss before this particular boss that I had a review with, and that boss was like, he couldn't see my potential. And I never had a boss that told me anything like that. Usually all of my bosses were supportive and they saw my potential and they wanted me to reach my fullest. But I did one time have a boss that tried to downplay my abilities. And it's funny because I still go have wings with that boss. And I never really kind of rubbed it in his face that I went and started my business, and the potential that he didn't see in me. I actually realized that potential, and now I'm, on a different level than most of those people I used to work with. And he actually still works at the company. No, I never really went back, to do revenge and try to say I told you so or anything like that. I just keep it kind of humble, and if they see something, they see something. So if I pull up to the Wings restaurant in a Lambo,
You might just see me in a Lambo.
It's the one and only Floyd Money Mayweather. I'm here to tell you guys to go to Will Motivation. The exotic cars is crazy. I've been watching this show for a little while now and it's growing. But we need everybody else to subscribe to Will Motivation and support Will. I'm supporting him. You do the same.